So good morning, sorry for the delay. So today I prepared a study which was published recently in the Journal of Veterinary Dentistry. It has the title Dental Pain in Cats, a prospective 6-month study. It was done by a group of Portuguese researchers. Most of them work in a feline-only clinic, and some of them are mostly studying behavioral science from animals, stuff like this. The aim of this study was to evaluate whether dental disease is a cause of pain during routine dental examination. And they also wanted to see if the disease severity correlates to the found pain scores. In the introduction, they talk a bit about why we need a study like this, because they are saying, so eventually we have some pain scales, but it's missing evidence that it can be used to evaluate pain during oral examination, and we don't have much useful stuff which we can use on everyday basis. And then they also talk about a bit of oral diseases in cats, which are believed to cause pain to the artist. So they talk a bit about periodontal disease, they talk about tooth resorption, they talk about tooth fractures, and they talk about feline or chronic feline gingivostomatitis. So this is also where the pictures are from. So as I said in the beginning, they would mention how we can or what are the different stages of periodontal disease, what can we usually see on those animals, and they're providing us with some clinical pictures and some x-rays. Here some other pictures where we can see protruding teeth, and so this is what they're mentioning. They also talk about endodontic diseases, and of course tooth resorption. Again, they will provide us with some nice pictures of different types and different stages of tooth resorption, but this is not really that much connected to the rest of the study, and they are only giving us some brief summaries about the different diseases. So I won't talk too much about the different diseases yet or now. So the evidence behind the study, or what we already know, or at least what the authors are mentioning, is that dental pathology in cats is really common. We know that cats have sensory innervation coming to the teeth. So on theory level, they should recognize pain when we do damage to those sensory innervation. We know that humans experience pain when they have some dental or orofacial disease, and we already have some pain scales also to evaluate acute and also chronic pain. The one which they're also using here in this study is the feline acute pain scale from Colorado State University. I also put it here, so you can see there are four or five scores, basically, with four being the highest one. And you can see what to look for. There's some psychological and behavioral science cats will most likely show. There's also a field where you can see the response from the cat to palpation, and they're also looking at the body tension. And then, so this is what we would do to give a cat a certain pain score. As the title already indicates, it is a prospective study. The research itself was done a few years ago. I think it was 2015, 2016, or 14, 15. But yeah, it was just published recently. And they included 53 cats in the study. Basically, every cat which allowed full evaluation was included. They were excluded, though, if they showed a pain score of level 4, which was not connected to dental disease. They were excluded when it was impossible to access or assess the level of pain. and they were excluded if they had any other known painful or systemic or serious systemic disease. And how did they, or what else did they look, or how did they look at it? So first of all, did they review from the patient dental history? They asked the owners what type of food they're getting. They documented gender, age, the owner's perspective about dental pain. They asked about dental home care. Then they performed the general physical examination. They performed an intraoral conscious examination. Then they performed the pain scale. And finally, they also did dental charting under anesthesia. And if we look at the stuff which was done or from the tooth perspective, so what did they look at? So they defined some what they call primary dental parameters. So they looked at periodontal disease, they looked at gingival index. So basically, there was inflammation of the gingiva. They looked at calculus index, so how much calculus on each tooth was. They looked at tooth resorption, they looked at tooth fractures, and they looked if there were missing teeth. And you can see they are using the nomenclature from the American Veterinary Dental College, but they're adjusting them to the study. So they said, for example, with periodontal disease, 1 means healthy gingiva, 2 means gingivitis, and 3 is all sorts of periodontitis if it's mild, moderate, or severe. When we were looking, or when they were looking at tooth fractures and missing teeth, it was just classified as absent or present. And you have to keep in mind this was done. So these parameters were evaluated on an awake patient, and they would just see if they could see a tooth, it was there. If they could not see it, it was missing. So no radiograph if there was resorption or a root remnant. Then they also look at secondary dental parameters. These were all evaluated by the owners. So they asked the owners if there was any known discomfort regarding the oral cavity. They asked the owner if there was any history of hypersalivation. They asked the owners how the cats are holding the food, if they need several attempts to get the food, and if there was bad breath. And again, this was just classified as absent or present. Okay, if we look at the results, so 22 cats out of the 53, they showed no pain when evaluating with the pain score. 11 had weak pain, so a score of 1. 11 had mild pain, a score of 2, and 9 had moderate pain, and no cat showed severe pain. If we look at the primary dental parameters, 15 cats had healthy gingiva, 20 had gingivitis, and 18 had some sort of some form of periodontitis. The mean number of missing teeth was 3. The prevalence of tooth resorption was 25%, and the prevalence of tooth fracture was 23%. When we come to the secondary dental parameters, 24 cats had some bad breath, 23 cats had difficulties holding food, 23 had several or needed several attempts to prehend food, 19 had mouse discomfort, and 12 showed hypersalivation. So yeah, I would just give you these numbers, and now I would show you what statistical significance they could find. So now they were putting those findings in correlance to each other, and or in correlation to each other. And what they found was that there was higher pain scores when we were missing more teeth. There was higher pain score when we had cats with tooth resorption. Regarding the secondary dental parameters, so all of them were associated with higher pain scores. So if the animal had any of those, and then some more, even more strange findings. For example, that males had more difficulties holding food, and cats which were fed on dry food or wet food only had a higher number of missing teeth than those animals which had a combination of both. Okay, so if we look at those results now, so I think, so first of all, I do have some problems with the general protocol, or if we want to reproduce this, because as you can see, so we don't really know how they were looking at, for example, what they were looking in the general examination. How would they exclude animals with other conditions? How would they perform the pain scale? I know it's a system which is meant to be objective, but still, I think there are quite many things which really depend on the person investigating those things. If we look at secondary dental parameters, they were all evaluated by the owners, and then again, I think it highly depends on which owners and how reliable they are when it comes to evaluating stuff like this. As already mentioned, there was no real information how they could be sure that they excluded pain from other causes. I have some problems with some of the statements they're giving, because, for example, if we have missing teeth shouldn't really be connected to animals being more painful, at least if the tooth is completely missing and the site is healed. So that's a bit strange, or I think a bit misleading, if you say that if you have more missing teeth, those animals will be more painful. It doesn't really make sense. I know in the discussion they're mentioning missing teeth is usually connected, missing teeth is usually in those animals which had some history of dental disease or tooth resorption, or higher stage of periodontal disease. But still, if the teeth are not there anymore, it shouldn't really be connected to pain. Also, if you, for example, look at the title when it says dental pain in cats, a prospective study, but then it's not really about dental pain in cats. It's more about, is there pain during palpation of diseased or bidentally diseased tissues during routine examination? This is basically what they did. And then they excluded all animals, or in the study group, there were no animals which showed higher pain scores. I think they mostly used animals which were going for spaying. If you look at the numbers, there were so many animals without any signs of gingivitis, without any signs of dental pathology, and I think that's really rare to see. And I wonder, because I can't remember last time I saw a cat with really no signs of at least gingivitis. That's a bit surprising for me as well. And I think it would make more sense to, I mean, you could do something like this maybe as a control group, but then it would be nice to know how many animals who just went for, let's say, spaying were included in the study and how many were actually dental patients. And at the end, I don't really know what's the relevance behind this. So so they were using systems which we already have. They were mentioning the dental disease, or at the end they concluding dental disease is coming and it can be a cause of pain. But it's if you look at the different diseases, like everything which is or producing some sort of inflammation, I think it's safe to say that those diseases should be considered painful. So yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for today. Bye bye.